What's up, everybody? Welcome back from the bye week. It is another episode of Between the Ears. I'm Schuyler, Callihan. That is Christopher Hall. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow over on our X account at SI underscore WVU. It still sounds weird to say X account. It kind of feels like it's a not G rated thing. but anyways, back to football. We're going to talk transfers today, kind of evaluate how those guys have done, how they've looked, maybe what we'll see from them down the stretch here in the final 8 games of the season. Some of these guys have played more. Obviously, there's probably two or three guys that haven't played a ton, but the majority of them have played. But some have over delivered, some have under delivered. So let's just go ahead and break it down position by position. Ryder Burton, the quarterback, we haven't seen him yet. We're not going to talk about him. There's no point in doing that. So let's go to the wide receiver group. Jaden Bray, Oklahoma State transfer, Justin Robinson from Mississippi State. We heard a lot about both of these guys coming into the year. Jaden Bray specifically, it almost became so well known or talked about Jaden Bray that he was almost going to be anointed as wide receiver one. Like he was making plays every single day, heavily contested catches, just mossing dudes in practice. Like it was every single day or every opportunity that the WVU coaches had to talk about Jaden Bray, we were hearing about him. So far to this point, he has been extremely quiet. He's had two big catches, and that's pretty much it. He has been held in check. He's not really played a ton. Don't really know why. I feel like they need to take some more explosive shots down the field. So that's kind of a question mark. Justin Robinson didn't play against Kansas. He's kind of questionable for this week's game against Oklahoma State as well with an undisclosed injury, but he too has kind of been not in the mix at receiver. So is it safe to say that it's been a little disappointing to see these two guys not come through or make as many plays considering they're older players? It's not like TJ Crandall on the defensive side where he's, still a sophomore. I mean, these guys have played a lot of football in college.
I would say that it's been more about rotation. I think Justin Robinson has delivered what you wanted to so far. The touchdown catch against Albany and obviously the one against Pitt is definitely highlighted. So I
Yeah,
think he's
that might
done
be the
what
highlight of the year.
I think he's lived up to what he's supposed to do. He was a red zone threat, and that's where he's lived. As far as Bray, probably hasn't got enough targets. Just again, it's there's been such a heavy rotation at receiver. And I don't want to say it's crippled the offense, but it's been hard for a receiver to really get into a rhythm. Hudson Clement did um, against Kansas, but other than that, no one's really gotten hot.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of opportunities for these guys, and probably after this bye week, you'll probably see they'll probably lean on a fewer number of guys that have been getting open uh, when they've had opportunities. Green has made some mistakes at times and not hit the open guy, and some of that's been with pressure, and some of it's just maybe he just hasn't been able to see him because of him being in the pocket and not being able to see over the line as well. So, really hard to judge too harshly on just 4 games right now, but Bray not being explosive right off the bat, not real surprising considering the amount of bodies they have in the room. But I think once they kind of settle on a rotation, who they want in the game, it may differ as it goes down as we get through this season. But again, I think Justin Robinson is where he is. Um, I think that's about where I expect him to be. Jane Bray's probably not where I expected him to be, but again, it just goes back to the heavy rotation.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Brown said, I think it was maybe their media day, he expects Jaden to have two quality, high production years while he's at West Virginia. And that's still possible. Like, it could just be, the offense just trying to find themselves. Maybe he's trying to find his role in the actual offense when it gets into the season because truth be told, like you can look so good in practice, but then when the game comes on and you get into the flow of things, it's totally different. You have to adjust. There's an adjustment period from when you go from one school to another just in practice, but then when you make it to the game, it's a whole nother thing. And then too, I mean, this is a big week for him too. He's going back essentially home. He's from that area. Went to Oklahoma State. So this is going to be a challenging week for him, I'm sure. And hopefully it's not one of those weeks where he's going to be pressing, trying to make a lot of plays, and he just stays within himself because when he can do that, he's going to be a valuable piece of this offense. So I do think he's going to come back and bounce back and hopefully have a good season. I still think he can be wide receiver one. Is it going to be this year? I don't know. Hudson Clements looked pretty good. Probably the most um, ready to kind of earn that title, but we'll see. Offensive line, Xavier Bosley's the only one there. That came in from Jacksonville State. Hasn't played a ton, so we won't talk about him. But I do think he's going to be somebody that's really going to be a big part of this offensive line moving forward. Like I'm really, really high on Bosley. I think if he's groomed and developed like a lot of these other guys have been on the offensive line, I think he's going to be an NFL player. Um, Switching over to the defense, where a lot of these guys are. Go to the defensive front. We'll just kind of talk about these three together since they're in the front seven. TJ Jackson. I mean, I think you and I could probably both agree he's been the biggest impact transfer, and I don't even think it's close. Um, he leads the or going into last week, I should say, because they were on a bye, led the country in quarterback pressures with 20, and he's only had 99 pass attempts or 99 pass rushing opportunities this season. He didn't even start the first two games. I mean, he has been ridiculous. And you also add Ty French and Reed Carrico at linebacker. I think they've done okay. I think there's better football from them. I think Reed's probably played a little bit better. I expected more out of Ty French, especially from a pass rushing standpoint, but it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of similar to Jaden Bray. It might just take a little bit more time. Unfortunately for Ty, he only has this year to get it figured out. He doesn't have any more eligibility after this. So hopefully he'll get something going here moving forward. But TJ Jackson to me has been the darling of this group, and really in the group as a whole.
Yeah, I talked about TJ in fall camp. You could see his explosiveness early on, and you just knew, given the opportunity, he was going to. I don't know, he's going to have this big of an impact early on. I think he's already eclipsed his tackle for loss mark he had a season ago that got him to West Virginia. So, not surprised from him. Really, probably exceeding my expectations at this point through 4 games. Todd French, I think he's just been so much that he's just still retaining. It's not an easy position. Either if you're going, between rushing the quarterback and dropping back from passes, learning the new defense, but you can see his explosiveness coming off the edge at times. Um, I think he's just getting adjusted to the size at this level as well. I think as he'll get stronger as the year goes along. And Reed Kirko, he's been great on special teams as well as he's finding his way. And he'll probably, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, and he'll continue, and he'll be needed
Yeah.
because it is a long season. Injuries aren't even necessarily a reason why he'll get more opportunities because they are going to get banged up. They're going to need some snaps off. So I think he's been solid through these first 4 games, but it's kind of wait and see when you got guys like Trotter and uh, like Trey Lathan. When these guys, the way that they're playing, it's kind of hard to find playing time. But he'll get more and more opportunities, and I think as he's someone else, is just going to get stronger as the season goes on.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, I said TJ is probably on pace for being Big 12 newcomer of the year. And I'll even go a step further this week because I mean, if you just look at what he's done in the limited snaps that he's had through 4 games, and it is limited because, like I said, he didn't play a ton in week one, and he kind of has kind of increased his workload throughout. But I think he could be an All American. Like if this continues, he's going to have insane numbers that no one around college football is going to be able to top. And I think we kind of had this conversation a little bit at this point last year with Beanie, and we were like, if he continues this, like he's going to be an all Big 12 player and maybe even more, maybe an All American. Lo and behold, it's exactly what happened. I mean, is TJ Jackson on way to be an All American?
We'll have to see how he's going to get a lot of double team treatment moving forward, which is going to give other guys opportunities. So we'll have to see how they kind of scheme around that and see how he can plays with it because he's not a hidden gem at this point. So he's going to get a lot of attention from offenses. Great test this weekend. Probably won't get as many QB hurries from Oklahoma State, the way they get the ball out quick.
One
Um,
sack. This is
yeah,
what they allow.
one sack, and that's yeah. I guess they're arguing that this is the most um, experienced offensive line in the history of college football. And what's
Wow.
crazy is coming season, they only had five more starts in the Florida State offensive line. That really just shows you the COVID year, and with the way that how red shirts work now, how you're able to stack up like this in recent. But I mean, it's a great offensive line. He'll be tested this week, so it'll be a nice little barometer check for him. See where he's at, because this is all Oklahoma State's always has one of the best offensive lines in the conference. So kind of see where he goes, but I'm not going to get too much into numbers with him on this one because again, they get the ball out so quick. He's
Yeah.
going to be really, even though they may have 20, 30 pass attempts, there may only maybe a handful of chances where they actually drop back and they can get to him.
Yeah, I mean, he had what 50 some pass attempts last week against Kansas
Yeah,
State, and they couldn't get home to him. I mean, that's just
it's just
the
quick
nature of their
passes, quick, quick,
offense.
quick, 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 quick.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, I love TJ. I think he's a fantastic player. I mean, he's going to play at the next level. I just don't know, and I think the coaches have said this too. Like they don't know what he's going to be because of his size. He's kind of a weird kind of body type. He's a little bit shorter than most defensive linemen, but he's quick and agile. He reminds a lot of people of Darius Stills. Obviously, Darius had the injury stuff that kind of took him out of the league, but I think he's got a chance. He's so fast and twitchy and athletic. He's going to have a chance. So going to the secondary, where pretty much most of these transfers reside. Garnett Hollis, Aiden Garnes, Dantes Fagan, TJ Crandall. We'll start with those four because they're all corners. I don't know. This is I don't even want to. I think at best you would hope you would say this is a mixed bag, and it's not been that. It's been a lot of disappointment, not really consistent play, and I'll still say this to this day. Garnett Hollis played a good game against Penn State. He gave up the big play. He had one. I don't even know if it was a big play. I think he should have had safety help over the top. I'd have to go back and watch it. Then Drew Aller also hit another like maybe 15, 18-yard pass along the sideline, but Hollis played it perfectly well. He just threaded the needle. Nothing you can do there. Just a good play by the quarterback. But ever since then, it's not been the same for him. Now, last week against Kansas or 2 weeks ago against Kansas, I think he played a little bit better. But the other guys, Aiden Garnes, Dantes Fagan, it's been a lot of ups and downs and probably more so down than anything. And I don't know if it's just kind of a scheme fit, if it's just not understanding where they're supposed to be in their drops, what their responsibilities are in coverage. But it has been a nightmare in that back end.
yeah, it really has. I thought they did a lot better against Kansas than they had the previous two games. And then when you look at, Crandall has, he got to start against Kansas. So I thought he played well. And Garnes moved to the nickel. So I think that some of it is just finding where these guys' strengths are. I think they believe that, Hollis could cover one on one better than he has. And he may down the road, but he just hasn't really proven it at this point. And again, you can almost be crippled by too much information. And I think that's where kind of some of that lies is that they have, learning a new system and trying to get accustomed to everybody. The communication has kind of slowed them a little bit. Um, I think it was expected, not down to the level that they're playing now, but the defense gets stronger every single year. And when you have all these new faces, it's going to take time for everybody to come together. I know it's losing the pit obviously sucks, especially the way it happened, but it kind of is what it is when you've had to kind of rebuild a roster from a defense that just got plucked year after year with NIL. So they've hit some home runs. In the secondary, we talked about Charles Woods, Beanie Bishop. Maybe, now they hit a home run with TJ Jackson up front. It's early in the season. These guys will have 8 more opportunities in the regular season to prove um, that they can play within this defense, within this conference, and play at a high level. So, yes, it's been bad at times, probably a lot more bad than good. But on the other hand, a little more time. Don't want to totally throw them under the bus. It has been awful, especially against Pitt. You got to give Pitt a lot of credit. With Holstein, he threw some great balls, um, and the receivers got open.
Yeah.
Granted, everybody was getting open there for a while, but um, well, you just kind of have to wait and see and how they scheme it. They did a lot better against Kansas and a lot better in keeping home with Daniels up front. So if they can continue that trend where they can continue to improve, you'll see the passing numbers, defensive numbers improve as the season goes along. And here's another great test with Oklahoma State with how they're attacking the pass game because a lot of it's going to be up front, and this may actually play in the hands of Hollis Jr., where this is where you wanted that physical receiver up front, bump them off their timing. So great test, and this is one of the reasons why they brought him in is the play defense against offenses like this because there's a lot of RPO in this conference. So we'll see how it shakes out. That week may need this week off may really be what they needed to kind of get their firm footing, get their feet under them, see where they're at, evaluate, and just kind of move forward.
Yep, and I think you made a great point there. Like, you don't want to write them off just yet. And I know I wrote, I think it was a week or two ago, that you kind of are what you are at this point, and there is a lot of truth to that. But I still think you can improve week to week, and you can get better. But the
And
biggest thing I
especially
think
with a
we
team
have
with a
to,
lot of new faces. This isn't a group that's played together 3 years. This is
yeah,
all
you're
new
coming from a
group.
lot of
So
different backgrounds.
they're all going to get improved. And when you got Trey Lathan, who's still only a sophomore, like there's Trotters, redshirt freshman. He's only going to enter his fifth game of the season. So I mean, there's just so many new guys that are getting accustomed to each other. It's way too early. This defense will be a lot better come November.
The thing I think we all need to do a better job of understanding or maybe realizing, whether it's us, the media, or the fans, is now that we've moved to this 12 team playoff, and I hate to kind of segment the season, but I mean it's just the truth of it. Like, those first three games are essentially your preseason. You want to win them all, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. They do matter, but then again, they don't. Like, the Big 12 is what your real true season is. And if you look at it, West Virginia's 1-0 in the games that truly 1000% matter. So you got to look at that as those first three are preseason. We're now in the regular season. You're 1-0. You have a chance to move on to 2-0 this week on the road. And even if you don't, you're 1-1. Like, there's still a lot of football left. I know it seems like we're creeping up here on the halfway point of the season. There's still a lot of football left. You can't write this group off just yet. Now, last two guys, defensive backs, Jaheim Joseph and KK Tarnu. Jaheim Joseph, I think, has been pretty decent. Tarnu, I'm a little disappointed by just because I thought he was going to be maybe one of the better, more consistent pieces that they brought in the secondary, and just hasn't worked out to this point. And I'm honestly also kind of surprised that they didn't keep him at corner or put him at corner. He played a little bit of corner and safety at Jacksonville State. I personally thought he was better at cornerback, and maybe just by product of bringing in four other guys in the portal, they thought, well, let's try him at safety. So I am interested to see if they move him or give him some split reps at corner and safety, just kind of move him around a little bit. But I don't know. I think there could be a better use for him on the defensive side, but we'll see. What do you think about Joseph and Tarno?
Again, other areas where it's just a tough positions to learn and communicate, and you can get in your old headspace, and then you're half second behind. So it really just goes back to the same thing with the defensive backs. Just let them get their feet under them, let them figure out where they're supposed to be. Unfortunately, they need them to be further along than what they are because they have to rely on these guys every week. So it's just a matter of can they get it together here in the next month. And yes, they haven't played well. Jaheim Joseph has had his name called a couple of times on defensive penalties. Still curious to see that holding at Pitt that they threw at the offensive lineman,
Yeah.
and somehow it was a penalty downfield. It's still amazing to me. But we'll just have to see where they're at. Have they lived up to their expectations? No. Does it surprise me? Not at all, because they're playing really tough positions on the back end. And again, it's about getting accustomed to the defense. Um, maybe they probably did things better, in fall camp because you get comfortable. But then when you're seeing different offenses every week, it can kind of have you on your heels a little bit. So
Yeah.
second behind is a lot in the grand scheme of things. So you can see them progressing every week. It's just not enough to where they need to be at this moment. But again, unfortunately, you have to rely on these guys early on. So we'll see. And again, this bye week could be really huge for a lot of these guys, and
Yes.
they can take really big steps forward. So it'll be interesting. Again, this offense of Oklahoma State, they got a lot going on, especially when you got Ollie Gordon coming out of the backfield. So there's a lot to pay attention to. It's going to be a huge test for them. Yes, they haven't been great. It's kind of weird that Alan Bowman is they've had controversy and he's averaging over 300 yards a game. So it's going to be a really good test for this unit with the way they attack the RPO. So I think this is a better fit for this defense, the way they kind of had it set up to stop in Oklahoma State. So we'll see how far they've come in a week.
The one guy I'm going to be watching is Hollis because, I mean, Crandall, like I said earlier, he's questionable with his injury. But Hollis of that group is probably the most, or probably has the most pro potential, at least as of right now. I mean, just based on his sheer size and length and physicality, he just hasn't played well to this point. It hasn't been good enough. But for him, like this is it. There is no more college football after this. And if he wants to make it to the NFL, he's got to play really good football in these final 8 to 9, hopefully 10 or more games. And I want to see him bounce back, kind of get right mentally, because I think when you go through that transition, it's tough. You're learning new terminology. You're learning how to play off your teammates. You're learning how to, deal with certain calls. You're learning new opponents. Essentially, you're not going up against the Big Ten that doesn't really throw the ball around a whole lot. This is a whole new challenge for him. But his NFL career is going to depend on these next 8 to 9 games or his chances to make it to the NFL. So he's the one that I really want to kind of keep my eyes on. So I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. We will be back tomorrow breaking down the keys to the game against Oklahoma State. For Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler. Make sure you tune back in tomorrow here on Between Eers.